My wife cheated on me with her boss, stole $150, $0 from our joint account to buy a house with him, and now she's suing me for half the property in a bitter court battle I never saw coming. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. Honestly, it feels like I've been living in some twisted soap opera, but the worst part is that it's real. The most shocking moment came out of nowhere. One day I was just going through our bank statements, trying to get a grip on our finances, and I saw a transfer of $150, $0 from our joint account. At first I thought it was a mistake, maybe some kind of bank error or some kind of investment I forgot about. But then I looked closer. The transfer was made just a week ago and it was labeled as a home purchase. That's what threw me off. We already owned a house, a nice one, paid off, no reason to buy another one. And I didn't know anything about it. That's when I started digging deeper. I pulled up our recent emails, text messages, anything I could find. That's when I saw the texts. My wife, Lisa, had been secretly texting someone named Mark. I'd seen her on her phone before, but she always claimed it was just her sister or some work stuff. But these messages, they were different, flirty. She was talking about meeting him, calling him babe, saying she couldn't wait to see him again. And then there were the pictures, not explicit but close enough. Texts about us and our future, about how she wanted to leave me and start fresh with him. I couldn't believe it. My wife Lisa, who used to be the sweetest girl, the one I married after dating her for 5 years, was cheating on me with her boss, Mark. I had a good job, a nice house, a life I thought was stable. We had our problems, sure, but I never thought she'd do something like this. And the money 150 gone just like that. I kept asking myself, how did I miss all the signs? She'd been acting weird lately, distant, snapping at me over small things, canceling plans last minute. I thought she was just stressed at work or maybe tired of the routine. But it was all a cover-up. The biggest shock was what I found out later. She stole that money. She took it from our joint account, probably on the sly, and used it to buy a house with Mark. I found the paperwork online, pictures of the house, the transfer receipts. She'd been planning this for weeks, maybe months. I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. My mind kept racing. How long has she been cheating? How much does she really love me? Or was I just some guy she settled for because I was safe and stable? The betrayal cut deep, but what hurt even more was the realization that she lied to my face, told me she loved me, and then turned around and did this. I confronted her that night. I remember the look on her face when I showed her the evidence. She was so calm, so bitchy, like I was the problem. She told me I was overreacting, that the money was for our future, that I was paranoid, insecure, and that Mark was just a friend she was helping out at work. She even had the nerve to say, "You're just jealous because I don't love you anymore." Yeah, right, that was just a slap in the face. I told her I knew everything, that I'd seen the messages, the transfer, everything. She just shrugged and said I was crazy, that I was imagining things. But I knew she was lying. I could see it in her eyes. She was scared but also defiant. That moment was the beginning of the end for me. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and disbelief. How could she do this? How could she betray me like that, steal from us, and then lie so effortlessly? I kept asking myself if I'd missed the signs, if I'd been blind to her true nature. It's like I was living with a stranger all along. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there staring at the wall, trying to process what I'd just learned. All the plans we had, the future I thought we'd build, gone, just like that. The trust was shattered, and I knew I had to figure out what to do next. But honestly, I was scared. I didn't know how to fix this or if I even wanted to. After that night, everything changed. I started noticing small things about Lisa that I'd never paid attention to before. Her phone always on silent, secretive texts she'd quickly delete if I came near. Late nights she claimed were work meetings, but seemed suspiciously secretive. I knew she was hiding something, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions without solid proof. Still, the evidence was mounting so fast I couldn't ignore it anymore. I decided to follow her one day. It sounds crazy, I know, but I needed to see for myself. I waited until she left for work, then I followed her car. She drove to some fancy part of town, not near her office. I parked a few blocks away and watched her go into a posh with a man I didn't recognize. She was laughing, leaning in close, touching his arm. That's when I saw him, Mark, her boss. My stomach clenched. This wasn't just some fling. It was something serious, something that had been going on for a while. They looked comfortable, like they were planning their future together. That moment I felt like I was punched in the gut. I'd always thought Lisa was ambitious, maybe a little bitchy, but loyal. Turns out she was capable of lying, cheating, stealing, everything I'd never suspected. I kept watching until they left, then I went back home to process it all. The betrayal wasn't just emotional anymore. It was also about the money, the house, everything we'd worked for. The next step was confronting her again. I wanted her to admit everything. I waited until she came home that evening, trying to keep my voice steady. I told her I knew about her affair with Mark, about the money she stole, about the house she was buying with him. Her reaction was infuriating. She rolled her eyes and dismissed me like I was some paranoid fool. She said, "You're overreacting, John. You always blow things out of proportion. Mark's just a friend and I'm not cheating on you. The money. It's for our future, for us. You're just insecure." That was her favorite line, "you're insecure." Like I was the problem, not her. I felt a mixture of rage and helplessness. How could she lie so easily? How could she make me doubt myself? I told her I wasn't buying her bullshit anymore. I said I was going to get to the bottom of this no matter what. That's when she snapped at me, called me jealous, accused me of not trusting her, and said I was ruining everything. I wanted to believe she was just confused or scared, but deep down I knew she was lying. She was hiding something big, and I was going to find out what it was. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything, the texts, the meeting, the money. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how much she'd lied to my face. She'd been sneaking around, stealing from us, and planning her escape with Mark. I felt betrayed, not just by her actions, but by the fact that I'd trusted her for so long. I started questioning everything about our relationship. Was I ever really happy, or was I just comfortable? Did she ever love me, or was I just a backup plan? The pain was overwhelming, but I knew I had to do something. I couldn't let her get away with this, not without a fight. The days that followed were a blur of anger, confusion, and a strange sense of clarity. I spent hours going through our joint accounts, trying to piece together exactly how much she'd taken and where it all went. The $150, $0, was just the tip of the iceberg. I found other suspicious transactions, small transfers to accounts I didn't recognize, purchases I had no idea she made. It was like she was building her escape plan right under my nose. I started talking to a lawyer just to understand what my rights were. The moment I sat down with him, I realized this was bigger than I thought. Lisa had been planning this for months. She kept everything hidden, her affair, the theft, even the new house. The house she was buying with Mark was a done deal. I saw the paperwork, the mortgage, the transfer of funds. She was serious. She stolen from us, lied to my face, and now she was trying to take half of everything I'd worked for. I couldn't believe how cold she'd become. Lisa, who used to be so bitchy and bossy, suddenly turned into someone I barely recognized. She started calling me insecure and paranoid, accusing me of trying to control her. She said I was just jealous because I couldn't keep up with her new life. That's when I realized she was a master manipulator. She'd spun this web of lies so well that I almost started questioning myself. Had I missed the signs? Was I just blind? I decided I needed to confront her again, but this time with evidence. I told her I knew everything, the affair, the money, the house. Her reaction was as dismissive as ever. She told me I was overreacting, that I was making everything up in my head. She even had the nerve to say she loved me, that she wanted to work things out. But her eyes told a different story. They were cold, calculating. She was already planning her new life with Mark, and I was just an obstacle she wanted to get rid of. I felt the rage bubbling up inside me. How dare she sit there and pretend everything was fine? How could she lie so effortlessly? I wanted to scream at her, to shake her and demand, "Admit the truth." But I knew that wouldn't get me anywhere. Instead, I told her I'd be taking legal action, that I'd be fighting for everything, our house, our savings, our future. I told her I'd find out exactly how much she'd stolen and that I'd make sure she paid for it. Her smirk only made me angrier. She thought she was untouchable, that she could just walk away with everything she wanted. But I wasn't going to let that happen. Deep down, I knew this was just the beginning of a long, messy battle. I was already planning my next move. I had to protect what was mine, but more than that, I had to find a way to rebuild myself after this. I never expected Lisa to turn into this person, so manipulative, so ruthless. But now I understood that sometimes the people you trust the most are the ones capable of the worst betrayals. And I was determined to see this through, no matter how ugly it got. I had to fight for my dignity, for my life, and for whatever shred of self-respect I had left. The legal process moved faster than I expected, and honestly, I wasn't prepared for how brutal it would get. Lisa was relentless in her attempt to claim half of everything, even though I had the evidence, the bank statements, and the legal documents showing her theft and her plans with Mark. She spun stories in court, claiming I was some jealous, insecure husband who was just trying to control her. She insisted the money was a gift, that we were building a future together, and that I was overreacting. It was infuriating to see her lie so effortlessly, like she was fabricating a whole other reality just to win her case. Meanwhile, I was poring over every detail, hearing investigators, digging into her financials, trying to find anything that would prove her deception. I discovered she'd set up a separate account, hidden from me, where she'd deposited a large chunk of the stolen money. She'd been funneling cash into it for months, planning her escape. I also found out she'd been secretly meeting Mark at a condo she rented on weekends, places I never knew existed. Every new discovery made me feel more betrayed, more furious. How could she do this? How could she lie to my face, steal from me, and then try to take everything I owned? The courtroom battles became a whirlwind of accusations. Lisa's lawyer painted me as an overbearing, insecure husband who was trying to control her. She that I was abusive and that she was just trying to find happiness. Her words stung, but I knew the truth. I knew she was lying, spinning tailies to cover her tracks. The judge, thankfully, seemed to see through her, but it didn't make the process any easier. Every day I sat there, feeling like I was fighting not just for the house or the money, but for my own sanity. Throughout all this, I kept asking myself how I got here. I've been a good husband, or so I thought. I worked hard, paid the bills, never cheated or lied. And yet she had been planning her escape all along. I realized I'd been too trusting, too willing to ignore the signs. She was bitchy, yes, but I never thought she'd turn into someone capable of this level of betrayal. The worst part, seeing her so confident, so cold, as she lied through her teeth. It was like she'd become a different person, someone I didn't even recognize. One thing that kept me going was knowing I had the truth on my side. I had the evidence, the receipts, the witnesses. But even with that, the pain was overwhelming. I felt like I was losing not just my money or my house, but my sense of reality. I'd trusted her, loved her, built a life with her, and now I was fighting to keep what little I had left. I was starting to understand that sometimes, the people closest to you are the ones capable of the deepest betrayals. It's a cold lesson, but one I was determined to learn and move past. I knew I'd have to rebuild everything, my trust, my life. But first, I had to win this fight. And I was not going down without a fight. The court case dragged on for what felt like an eternity. Every hearing was a new battlefield, with Lisa's lawyer throwing accusations, trying to paint me as the villain, and her trying to convince the judge that she was the victim. Meanwhile, I was gathering every piece of evidence I could find: bank statements, emails, texts, even witness testimonies from friends who saw her sneaking around with Mark. It was exhausting, but I knew I had to stay strong. The more I fought, the more I realized how deeply she'd lied, how much she'd stolen, and how ruthless she'd become. One day, I got a call from my lawyer that shook me to my core. They'd uncovered a new piece of evidence, an email she'd sent to Mark just days before she transferred the money. In it, she thanked him for making her dreams come true and talked about how they were finally going to buy that house together. That email proved she'd been planning this for months, that she'd been manipulating me all along. It was a huge blow, but also a relief, proof that I wasn't paranoid, that I wasn't imagining things. The day of the final hearing, I sat in the courtroom feeling a mixture of anger, sadness, and resolve. Lisa sat across from me, her bitchy smirk in place, confident she'd win. But I knew better. I presented my evidence, laid out the timeline, and explained how she'd stolen from us, lied to my face, and betrayed everything we'd built. The judge listened carefully, asking questions, scrutinizing every detail. And then, finally, she made her ruling. The judge awarded me full ownership of the house, ordered Lisa to pay back the stolen money, and dismissed her claims for half of everything. Lisa's face was a mix of shock and fury. She tried to argue, to pull some last-minute stunt, but the judge was firm. She said that her deception and theft were clear violations of our marriage vows, and that justice had to be served. Watching her walk out of that courtroom, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. I'd won the battle, but the war was far from over. In the aftermath, I started working on rebuilding my life. I moved out of the house, got a new place, and cut ties with Lisa entirely. I never thought I'd say this, but I learned a lot from this nightmare. I learned how fragile trust is, how betrayal can come from the people you love most, and how important it is to stand up for yourself. I also learned that sometimes revenge isn't about hurting the other person. It's about reclaiming your life and dignity. I don't wish what happened to me on anyone, but if there's one thing I can tell you, it's this. Never ignore the signs of betrayal, and never be afraid to fight for what's right. Because at the end of the day, you're the only one who can protect yourself from the lies and the betrayals that come out of nowhere. Now, sitting here reflecting on everything, I realize how much this experience has changed me. I used to believe in the idea of forever, in the notion that marriage was built on trust and honesty. Turns out, not everyone plays by those rules. Lisa was a master manipulator, and I was blind to it for too long. I trusted her because I loved her, but love isn't enough when someone's willing to betray you so completely. Losing that house, the money, the marriage, it all stings. But what hurts even more is the realization that I was a fool to ignore the warning signs. The bitchiness, the secretive texts, the late nights, those were clues I brushed aside because I wanted to believe she was still the woman I married. I wish I had seen it sooner, maybe prevented the damage from becoming so catastrophic. But hindsight is always clearer, isn't it? What I've learned from this is that you have to be vigilant. Trust is important, but trust must be earned and maintained. And if someone is lying, stealing, or hiding things, it's better to find out early than to let it fester and destroy everything. I also learned that revenge isn't about hurting the other person, it's about reclaiming your life and dignity. I fought hard and I won, but at a cost. Still, I'm proud of myself for standing up, for refusing to be a victim. Now I'm focused on rebuilding. I've started over, moved on, and I'm more cautious than ever. I know I'll never forget what happened, but I refuse to let it define me. This whole ordeal has taught me that sometimes the most unexpected betrayals come from those closest to us. And the only way to survive them is to face the truth, fight for justice, and never let anyone take away your sense of self. If there's one thing I'd tell anyone going through something similar, it's this. Trust cautiously, watch for the red flags, and don't be afraid to fight back. Because in the end, you're the only one who truly has your back. And no matter how deep the betrayal, you can come out stronger, more aware, more resilient. I did. And I'll keep moving forward, leaving this nightmare behind me.